like, you know, the work's kind of stressful, and the stress then starts to cause like a depressive state, you know, just like burnout, fatigue. Basil is very good for that. The thyme and the basil actually work really well together, and you could actually blend those together and take them at the same time. Within a day or two of taking the thyme, you should bounce back, actually start to bounce back kind of quickly. To prevent that from happening again, I would use Ravensara. Ravensara is such a good treatment for, you know, it has very strong antiviral properties for what? Ravensara. But it's so good and strengthening, and yet at the same time calming to the body that it's starting to be a thing where it's hard to get. Like I had a couple of kilos that I had for a while, and with all this COVID stuff, I went through it where I'd had those couple kilos for a couple of years, and then in a few months, I went through all of it. I tried to get more, and now we're all in the bidding war to get the remaining Ravensara that's floating around. I can't even get a full kilo. So that's how well it works. So when you're doing lots of healings for maintenance, you can actually use Ravensara to keep yourself from getting fatigued. But once you're fatigued, use thyme to pull yourself out of it.
Okay. Thank you,
Yeah.
Greg.
Yeah. And if you need some advice as time goes by, you know, post it on Plant Prana Q&A so that we can answer it, and or send a message to Plant Prana Calendar, and I'm glad to help you, you know, one-on-one.
Thank you.
How would you use the thyme and basil blend, like the recipe?
Oh, I would just, the thyme and basil, I would probably just mix them one to one, like just even parts. Like, you know how like sometimes people like to, I mean, oregano is a really good like antiviral, antibacterial, but here's the thing, you take too much of it and it can be irritating to your system. Like if you take too much oregano, you'll start to get like a burning, irritating sensation down by the lower abdomen, right? So one of the things you can do is you mix a little bit of Ravensara with a little bit of oregano, and then one of the mild forms of thyme, like thyme linalool or thyme citrol. I usually use thyme linalool and a little bit of basil. It's a great tonic. It's good for the adrenals. It's good for the immune system. So that is kind of almost to a T the thing that we call adrenal support in my product line. It's pretty much those oils and maybe one other oil, and it keeps the adrenals strong and helps prevent the tendency for you to get sick with colds and flus. And so oregano is good, but you have to temper it with other oils. Ravensara works really good for that.
And just so you guys know, I'm trying to really grab the ones that are more either oils he's just talked about or really focus on the anxiety and the immune ones first. So just so you know what's happening. As a nurse, does clove help Parkinson's like you said it helps MS and lupus?
Let me look at my notes real quick. I don't have Parkinson's in my notes for clove oil. Give me a second here. Okay, so take it for what it's worth. The things that I like in the past, when you know, you have to take this into account. I was doing a very multifaceted approach, but based on some studies and research, one of the things that I was using, well, I had three things that I was using for Parkinson's: spikenard, valerian, and myrrh. And then I was also doing healing. And so, I mean, it's not going to be a thing that cures it, but you're just trying to reduce some of the symptoms. I also tended to give things that would be strengthening to the brain. So I usually would also use things like linden blossom, basil, petitgrain, some rosemary, something like that. But the thing for targeting the condition itself was basically spikenard and myrrh.
What's in the adrenal blend?
It's in the adrenal blend. It's ravensara, oregano, thyme, linalool. I'd have to look it up. Hold on. Ravensara, thyme, linalool, basil, and oregano. I have a couple different kinds of basil mixed in there, but I mean, you can just use the one kind of basil, but I have several types of basil mixed in there. So there's about 4 types of basil mixed in the Adrenal Support. You can just use the basil linalool if you want, the regular basil that I sell.
You guys can interrupt me with the question.
Yeah, feel free to jump in.
Otherwise, I'm going to start just going through your list here. But the moment you unmute, I'll shut up. How can we make? Yeah, go, Sonia.
What about treating children for COVID and virus bacteria?
When you say children, what's the age?
4 to 17. There's 6 of them.
Okay, after
Yeah.
about 8 or 10, I treat them like an adult. Under the age of 8 or 9, treat them like a, so a couple things. For the respiratory component, I would use myrtle. And for the antiviral component, a very specific type of thyme called thyme linalool.
Okay, go ahead, Morgan.
Hello, I'm interested in what oils would support retinitis pigmentosa and help reduce its progression.
Boy, I'd have to go through and look at my notes off the top of my head. It's probably going to be pretty multifaceted too. Sometimes, you know, oils aren't always good for every condition. The reason I'd have to go look that up is I don't have a bunch of notes on that. So I would have to go through it and just see what I have in my notes.
Just go ahead and send it to me email. That would be fine.
Morgan, would you go ahead and email me or email Greg, I should say, at plantchronicalendar@gmail.com with that question, so we have your email to get that answer to you.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay. How can we make better spray to prevent any contamination from chronic healing?
Sprays for contamination. You know, you have your lavender, tea tree, eucalyptus, obviously. I'm a big fan of mixing cedar and hyssop together. Very good cleanser, and it's also a lymphatic stimulant. When your lymphatic system is stimulated, it makes it easier for you to kick off the dirty lower vibrational energy. I'm also a big fan of mugwort. Mugwort would be another one. Just mugwort by itself. Even Roux. Roux is another one. The thing that's good with Roux is it also is very good for cutting cords. Just inhaling Roux will actually disengage cords. So.
How do oils react to dental implants?
Essential oils and dental implants, there should be no issue with that. You know, if there's an infection around it, clove oil or tea tree is always good. Clove oil is the traditional, like, kind of dental. They used to use it as an anesthetic to, you know, go through and do dental work. I knew a person who actually pulled their own tooth. They were backpacking and broke a tooth, and they put clove oil on it and extracted their tooth. I mean, he was a hardcore person, but asked him if he felt any pain, and he said not till the clove oil wore off. And he just kept putting clove oil on it. He kept back doing his backpacking trip. And so, you know, when he got back, he went and saw the dentist, and yeah, he pulled his own tooth. And so the clove oil is very good for that. Maintenance, probably, I mean, you could use it for maintenance in a mouth, you know, like a mouthwash kind of thing. Tea tree is a really good choice. You know, the thing is, citruses are actually really good for cleaning up the lymphatic function in the mouth as well, especially the roof of the mouth. And back a little bit further, it's a way to kind of liquefy the mucus and help break that down as well. And so you don't really think of this, but the two dirtiest areas in your body are from the knees down is the dirtiest part of the aura, and then your mouth. You know, the gum line and everything, it's just, there's just a lot of stuff there. And so going through and keeping that clean with the essential oils is a good habit.
Hey,
Which
Greg,
product-
it's Susanna.
Go.
Oh, I'm
Hey.
sorry.
No, please go.
Thank you for the class. So with the clove in the mouth, can we mix it with water and just kind of like gargle it?
Yeah, gargle. You can mix it with water. Sometimes you can add just like a little tiny bit of alcohol if you wanted, like, you know, vodka or something. But you know, a lot of times I just do water. You can put a pinch of salt in there, and then just, like, you know, gargle, and then like swish it around a whole bunch and get it around the gums and everything. But if you have an infection or if there's pain, put a bunch on a Q-tip and then just rub it directly right on the spot, like neat on the spot. And it will take the pain out. In fact, in France, they're coming up with an anesthesia that is actually based from making it from clove oil. And so clove oil is a really good pain reliever and anesthetic, as well as it knocks out the infection.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sometimes they'll use fennel to help move things in the mouth as well. And so you can make like a blend of, like, you know, fennel, cloves, some citruses, little tea tree, you know, however you want to do it. You can kind of play with it, but any variation of that should be good for overall, you know, like mouth health.
Can you please say which protocol and oils are best for anxiety, but that's really ancient, like very...
That first thing we did right off the bat. Like,
the first protocol.
Through, yeah. That's what we did all morning. That's what, I mean, when somebody comes to me for anxiety and they really have anxiety that's not going away with a single session or two, what I did in the morning is usually what I do. Yeah. It works a majority of the time. even if there's another underlying cause, it makes it easier to get to the underlying cause.
So that protocol will help it release.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you're basically cleaning up and re-educating the emotional body. And so you're teaching the emotional body to not be anxious. And so the thing is like to go after the anxiety just as anxiety starts to also almost like amplify it a little bit, because then you're engaging almost like this other struggle. And then every time the anxiety pops up, you're trying to knock it down. And so it almost becomes this like self-reinforcing approach, sometimes even because of the therapy approach. I mean, it's one of those things where, you know, you want to knock it down, but at the same time, you want to really get into the phase to where you're trying to prevent rather than treating it when it's happening. And so a lot of times when you're dealing with patients, they're not going to want to prevent. You usually see them in crisis. And to really knock anxiety out, you really have to get them to the point where it's a prevention-oriented approach. And that prevention-oriented approach, if you do what we did this morning, the other variation is the thing that we did last week from the PTSD protocol, that second step. That's another thing that I have used to knock out anxiety, and deepening the breath. Like if you deepen the breath, if it's been acute and has kind of happened over a period of time, a lot of times you can knock it out with the breath. But if it's been there for quite a while, or they just always have been prone to it, then the thing with the Roux last week, or the thing we did all morning, honestly, the thing that I did all morning is usually what I do over a period of several weeks. I have a really good track record with using that. The reason why it's not even printed out for you guys, I mean, I literally drew that from my notes. I mean, those are from the 95,000 hours of sessions, you know, that got boiled down over the years. I had tried so many different things for anxiety, and, you know, worked with psychologists, and we looked at different research papers, and, you know, we looked at all different kinds of things. And, you know, time and time again, that approach seems to be always the thing that produced the most consistent results.
Are essential oils and plant medicine quantum? Like, in other words, will treating a situation from another dimension, either like a past life or another part of your existence, can it reach that perspective?
Well, not my area of expertise. You know, I usually treat my stuff in front of me and deal with it from a clinical point of view, and I would say real good track record with the things that present, but I usually keep it to looking at it from that point of view. I mean, it's not that there aren't other things to be looked at, but you know, with the circles that I was in, if you know, for example, I was teaching a class one time, and there was a neuroscientist in the group, and she came up. She goes, "I can tell you worked with doctors and professionals." I was like, "Really?" And she goes, "Yeah, you're always kind of defending yourself and making the point of why you're doing what you're doing." And I got kind of quiet, and I was like a little bit confused by it. And she goes, "That you can tell that you've had to present to academics a lot because you're always defending yourself." And I never really thought about it, but she's right. Like when you're dealing with that circle of people, with doctors and psychologists and everything like that, if I didn't, in the business world and with the athletes, I mean, that was one of the reasons I liked working with the athletes. I had to produce a result. And so then when we started to get into abnormality, I went in there with that mentality, and I was getting results much more significantly than people who had PhDs. And part of it was, you know, I was thinking outside of the box. And I mean, I just went after what was in front of me. You know, I didn't really go for what it was or where it was coming from. I just, you know, I saw a rabbit and I chased it. So Sometimes I don't get into the whys. I just get into, well, you know, one of the things that Master Choi used to always say is, it's just energy, treat the energy. And so that became my kind of personal mantra, was just, you know, it's a condition, it's an energy, just going after it. Why it's happening, I don't always know. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I just chase it and go after it. So I hope that helps, but
Yes, it definitely helps. So
yeah,
it
I mean,
doesn't,
it's always nice to kind of know some of the other mechanisms and everything, but you know, part of it is probably also Capricorn, and like Capricorns are just like almost OCD when it comes to being practical. Like it's just like if it's in front of me, it's easier to treat than something that's like real heady. And so, you know, there's been some really weird things that I've treated over the years. I mean, really weird things, and gotten results, but I still have the approach of just treating what's in front of me.
right, so where it comes from is not really relevant.
For me, it's not. You know, other healers work that way. I'm just, that's not the way I'm not saying it's wrong. It's just, it's not my forte. You know, I'm always interested in what the other healers have to say, but like, my brain just doesn't kind of work that way. And so I listen, but, you know, I'm wired to do it the way that I do it. And so, I learn things from them when they say it, but I still do that thing where I'm still treating the thing that's in front of me. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, Heather? No? Any recommendations to help with blood sugar / diabetes, and any for help with quitting smoking? Any oils and protocols for those things?
Quitting smoking, you know, quitting smoking is a little bit of a hard one. One of the things that you do is you use things that are kind of calming and soothing to the nerves. So in the old days, they used to use magnolia. You don't necessarily have to use magnolia, but I'd use something that would be considered a nervine or nervine. So something calming and soothing to the nerves, you know, fortifying to the nerves. You know, you're dealing with a couple of things. You're dealing with the effects, not so much the tobacco, it's a lot of times it's the nicotine. The nicotine can be really hard on the system. And so you're having to deal with agitation as you're going off the nicotine. Then the other thing is when anytime you're dealing with the lungs, you're dealing with how well the chakras are pumping, right? The chakras are pumping like this, and you start improving your breath, they start pumping faster, right? But if something is bothering you, or if something's stressful, and you do things to diminish the breath, instead of feeling it to its full effect, the chakras start to slow down because the lungs have been impacted. So a lot of times when people have been smoking, what happens is the tendency is there's a little bit of a numbing effect. Then when they stop smoking, all of a sudden that numbing effect goes away, right? It goes away. So what happens is emotions or sensitivity to their environment becomes heightened. So again, you go back to calming and soothing the nerves. So one of the oils that I like to use a lot with that is, I like to use Tarragon. Tarragon is very calming to the sensory nerves. It slows down the rate that the sensory nerves are firing, so that the person that is sensitive is less sensitive when using Tarragon. They're not as overstimulated. And so, and then work on the lungs for the chakras to start pumping more. But usually if the person's motivated to stop smoking, that usually will do it. I mean, Sometimes it takes several tries. Nicotine is tough. I mean, it's not the tobacco, it's actually the nicotine. It's pretty tough. And so really support the nervous system. You know, even things like firs and spruces, myrrh, frankincense. I mean, you can pull out all the things that are fortifying and soothing. Spikenard, you know, vetiver, things like that. If the person's younger, tends to be a little bit depressive when they go off the tobacco or whatever they're smoking. You can use citruses combined with like basil and things like that, Ravensara. That can be helpful. It's probably another time I would probably break out the Ravensara. Just because Ravensara is very calming to the limbic system. And sometimes the not smoking starts to agitate the limbic system because you're feeling more. And so again, multifaceted approach. And what was the other one? It was smoking.
The diabetes, blood sugar.
Oils for diabetes, probably not the best approach. I've always used like things like bitter melon from the herbal world to treat diabetes. For essential oils, you know, you could try cinnamon, but I usually go the bitter melon route, at least at first.
Elaine?
Hello?
Yep, you had a question? I don't know, you were
Yes.
muted.
Yeah. I was going to ask Greg about a cord that's in my navel area that keeps coming back. I don't know if I'm sending that out or if I'm getting corded from somebody else, but it's really weird. It's been here for a long time and I get rid of it and it comes back. So I don't know if it's me.
Does it feel like pressure?
No, it's more when I meditate and I go in and I check on myself, I can see it.
Okay, but you're not feeling pressure there.
No,
Use the iron bark to clean it. It's not a bad cord, it's just dirty.
Ironbark eucalyptus?
Yeah, and just put your awareness on your navel.
It's not a bad cord?
No, but it's a good cord that's contaminated.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, good for you.
An oil for the forehead for clairvoyance.
Clairvoyance, so again, going through all those steps, you know, like in a way, there's kind of no shortcut for clairvoyance. Doing all those steps that we talked about, if you do those that we did all morning, clairvoyance definitely starts to come in. Just putting it on the forehead, you can do it that way. It's much slower that way. But I get the idea of wanting to do it. I usually use a combination of like cistus and geranium, things that activate the heart. Like you can use rose oil. Mugwort is always somewhat helpful. Clary sage is always helpful. So you can do variations of that. Mugwort and clary sage work really well together. You could add a little petitgrain in there as well. Clary sage, mugwort, and petitgrain. Yeah, but we are going to do a clairvoyance class at some point. We're just going to figure out, it might be in August, I think. And we're going to have it be free to the students. So until then, practice the thing we did all morning.
A couple of you are unmuted. Go ahead. Heather, Meredith, Morgan.
This is Morgan, and this is a good report since I seen you back in January. I asked how could I lower my A1C. Congratulations, I dropped it from 9.6 to 8.2 in
Oh,
2
tremendous.
months. And it, all I was doing was the long lymphatic protocol, but I was doing it every
Nice.
single day.
Yeah,
I learned
good
that
for
from you.
You're so kind. Good for you.
Hi, Greg.
Wow,
This is,
good for you.
oh, sorry. That is awesome. That is really terrific report. I'm hoping I can ask a question about myself and it might be beneficial to everyone. It's in regards to balancing my left and right sides. Right now on my left side, I feel light.
Of your brain or your whole body?
Oh, my whole body is particularly in my arm where I feel the real difference. But there's also like a flapping and a deep internal sound in my left ear. But I feel light and I feel not a lot of tension on my left shoulder and left arm. But on my right side, I feel like I'm 200 years old or something. I don't know, like it's really achy.
Have you had your hips and shoulders, like when you look in your mirror, do your shoulders look even or is one higher than the other?
I've been told, well, I'm not looking in the mirror right now, but I've been told by chiropractors and like my acupuncturist most recently that they're not even. I think the right one sits lower than the left one.
And I would say the opposite hip is up. So I would look at straightening, like putting oils that on the back and hips, even down into the legs that are antispasmodic for one, but like things that help balance out, like because here's the issue, like when you start to have rotations, is you're starting to have muscle imbalances as well. Because of the the elevations. So things like spikenard, vetiver, valerian, myrrh, they're all helping to balance out the muscle. But one of the things that I would do is I would use hyssop, and hyssop has this really amazing effect of being able to undo like muscle memory and unwind the fascia in the body. And I mean, I would just start doing inhalation, starting at your feet, then your legs, and then, do like the lower legs, the upper legs, and anywhere where you feel tension, I'd spend a little extra time on that spot. Okay. Even that PTSD thing that we're doing where we did Tarragon one week and then the Roux the next, and then this week is going to be hyssop, and then, the week after that, either Mugwort or Splendor. Even doing the Tarragon component of it could be helpful as well because Tarragon is so antispasmodic. But a lot of times, if you have a person stand sideways and you can see like they're slumped over, or you can see the misalignments, you have them start inhaling the hyssop and everything starts to balance out. Now you have to keep doing it over and over again because the body will keep rebounding a little bit. But that combined with marjoram on the spine or a couple of drops of marjoram internally. Do you have asthma by the chance?
I don't.
Okay, so if you have asthma, do not use the marjoram. Use basil or penegrin instead. But if you use the marjoram like internally, or have somebody put the marjoram on the spine itself and then go through and do the hyssop, it should unwind that pattern. Now, if you're needing to balance out the brain, you can take some vetiver and then rub it into the temples up in here, and it actually will balance out the brain as well.
Okay, thank you.
Try that for like 2 or 3 weeks and then email us and I'll go through and reevaluate you. But as I look at you, the energy bounces from side to side, and that's usually a hip and a shoulder opposing each other.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, even like an inch or two can do it.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Keep us posted on that, though.
I will. Thank you.
Can you repeat what you said, if you can't use marjoram because of asthma? Basil and,
Basil or petitgrain,
okay, thanks.
or even tarragon.
Go ahead,
Right.
Heather. Okay, can you hear me now?
Hey, hey. Yes, yes.
Perfect. Greg, you've taught us to bless the energy beings of the oils with love, joy, and mercy. So I've been thinking, as I'm doing sustained inhalations with oils, and we're doing that to get it into our lungs, to get into the bloodstream, what is happening with the energy beings? Where are they going when we do sustained inhalation?
The energy beings, you know, they're a little bit of it's mixing in your body, but it's also the energy beings that are just associated with those plants. And so you're developing a relationship with that plant. And so what starts to happen is you start to have deeper healing with that plant, and you start to almost be a little bit guided when you're using the plants. And so there's a handful of plants that they even consider as like plant teachers. You know, they transmit a lot of information, especially to when you're doing self-healing or to healers. But usually a healer will have one or two plants that are just their go-to thing. But if you go through and you do that particular protocol, you'll develop a relationship with the energy being or beings associated with that plant, so that, you know, for one, it has a deeper effect, and you're able to gather more information as you interact with that plant. It starts to be this kind of almost like a friendship that you have, energy being. It can be very nice. They can give you insight that you would not normally have on your own. Sometimes it's a little bit hard because it's not always literal information like how we think. You know, it's more like imagery, or you'll start to have like an instinct or an intuitive feeling. Before I met Master Choa, we used to do ceremony, and we would actually journey to the plant to have interactions with the plant. With the energy beings of the plant. You know, we would do it with like drumming, and you know, you do this little shamanic journey. And the problem is you come back covered in parasites. And so, you know, the shamans that I was working with, there was a circle of shamans. And all of a sudden, because I knew how to do it, I became the guy that was cleaning everybody up. And sometimes it was a couple of days of cleanup on some of these people with some of what they were doing. I did it pretty regular, so it still took me several hours to clean up to get the parasites off. So I asked Master Choa about it, and he went, ooh, like he kind of made that face like he would do sometimes. And he goes, not a good idea. And I was like, but I get so much information from it. And he goes, yeah, but you come back contaminated. He goes, very, very dirty, hanging out in bad neighborhoods. And he kind of laughed. He goes, I get it. He goes, you get a lot of information that way. Yeah? And I go, yeah. And he goes, but if you do it, and then pretty much what I taught you guys is a version of what he taught me. And so what he taught me got refined over the years, and I kept going back and forth and asking him things as time went by. And so, you know, it kept evolving into something. And so I basically taught you a version of that for you guys to play with. So that way you get the information and the guidance without the contamination.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
Oils for schizophrenia?
Oils for schizophrenia, again, very complex, very complicated. There's not going to be a single oil that is a go-to thing. I have used some clove oil for a little bit. Have used lemon verbena for a bit. I usually treat the kidneys pretty intensely. But there's not going to be anything that makes the schizophrenia go away other than a very multifaceted approach. So we're kicking around the idea of maybe doing some videos for things that are like very complicated health issues and abnormal psychology. Maybe not necessarily making it part of a class, but like just some videos that, like, when you want it, you can go to the library and, you know, the video library, and just, you know, download it and watch it, or we're gonna post it on Plant Product Q&A, but that's a very, very long discussion. I don't mind having it. It's just sometimes it's something like, even when I teach other healers about it, I have the tendency to not want to just do the same thing over and over again. So a lot of times what's happening is you're having a very aggressive approach to treating the condition, and you have to keep evaluating the person, because some people are in different phases or different stages of the schizophrenia and different intensities. And so they're responding differently to treatment. And it's almost like a case-by-case basis, yet there's some things that you always do. And so I'm trying to figure out a way to kind of be able to do that. And but there's not just like an oil or two to go through and treat that.
Another one that might be similar, a protocol for high blood pressure.
Again, going back to the thing with the Roux, that will lower for high blood pressure, that will usually lower the second number quite a bit. Juniper will reduce fluid volume. Cape Snowbush or Petitgrin will usually reduce the first number a bit. Spikenard or Valerian can work similar a little bit to like a beta blocker, but you know, be sure to constantly be measuring your blood pressure, and if it's, you know, out of whack, you stay in contact with your physician on that. There's a lot of reasons why your blood pressure could be up, and so it's not an easy answer. So I mean, those are things to start with, but you know, cardiovascular issues can be quite serious. So be sure that you're, you know, one of the other things is also cramping in the, you know, tension in the physical heart, in the heart muscle. Could be thickening of the blood. Could be stress levels. You know, there's a lot of issues. One of the other things that I usually give people with high blood pressure also is a type of coenzyme Q10 called Ubiquinol. Coenzyme Q10, I give them actually relatively high dosages of it, to be honest with you. Several gel caps a day. It also will have a lowering effect on the blood pressure. Also works really good for congestive heart failure too, by the way. I have this one patient, she's had congestive heart failure now for probably 30 years. And, you know, we did healing on it, and then I put her on really big dosages of coenzyme Q10. And, you know, she's still alive and kicking.
Can you mix Roux with lavender in contamination spray?
Roux and lavender. Probably not Roux and lavender. If you were gonna mix it, I would do like Roux and eucalyptus, or Roux and tea tree. Roux, you know what would be good is Roux and sage, or Roux and hyssop. If you're gonna mix things with lavender, for contamination, I mean, if you like florals, lavender with a little bit of ylang would be good decontamination. If you don't like florals, lavender and benzoin, like a Actually, you know what else would be good? Lavender and spikenard.
Are there oils that regulate the pH in your body?
They say, like the pH, they say lemon should regulate the pH. I've used litmus paper. It does a little bit. I can't say I was super impressed. Wasn't like, oh, this is the go-to thing. The one thing that I have found consistently is when part of what happens, like when somebody has a little bit of a heart issue and they're like their physical heart is like achy. Part of it is the pH of the heart, the cardiac muscle, in and around the cardiac muscle has gone down, and so they feel the achiness. Pine oil actually will change the pH there. And so pine oil rubbed to the chest will take the achiness out of the physical heart. But if you're trying to change the pH of a whole body, you go through and you do some detox. Lemon is a very safe, gentle, long-term. I mean, you can take that big dosages for a long period of time. And it should help normalize mineral deficiencies and change the pH. But I think it's probably more a long-term approach. Whenever I was doing it, I would check within like a week or two. It would change, but it wouldn't change massively. I think it's probably more like a 3-month, 6-month thing.
What's your opinion about colloidal silver as antiviral?
Colloidal silver, it's antiviral. For me, I use colloidal silver. I don't use it all the time. But for me, with the COVID, I would use it as a package deal. I'd use it as a multifaceted approach and not depend on it entirely by itself. But silver, how colloidal silver kind of came about. It's kind of interesting. Is I can't remember what culture. I want to say it's in Spain. What they would do is they would take a silver coin, and they would wash it. And when they would get their milk, they would put the silver coin in the milk. And they noticed that when they put the silver coin in their milk, that they had less tendencies to get sick, right? And so eventually, time goes by and it turns into colloidal silver, but it's the effect of the silver in the water or ingesting it. And so Edgar Casey kind of played around with doing things with silver and with gold and things like that. And, it has its impact. There were these devices way back in the day that I suspect they were making colloidal silver even way, 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 way long time ago. And so I like colloidal silver. Sometimes, when I get like good, just clean colloidal silver that's water with nothing else in it, I'll even put it in my eyes and things like that. But I wouldn't use it as the only approach. I would actually add other things to it. Especially with COVID or flu season. I like to go at it a little bit harder than just one essential oil. I'm usually rotating things that like we've been talking about because you want to not have any holes in your immunity, and so just depending on one thing usually doesn't cut it.
Go ahead, Jackie.
Yeah, hi, Greg.
Hey.
So my dad has, I believe it's pronounced bronchitis, and so he has scar tissue in his bronchioles, and I've tried to work with him a few times with oils, but the problem is that because of this, he's had a chronic cough for many, many years, and so now he actually has lesions on his throat, and so inhaling oils really is uncomfortable and irritates his throat. So how could you work with the lungs in that capacity?
Okay, this is what I would probably do. Did he ever smoke?
Yes, he quit probably 20 years ago.
Did he ever have, before getting sick, did he have a smoker's cough? You know, I'm always up.
Not really, but the cough was kind of, he also has what is it, lymphocytis, cancer of the lymphatic system, and the cough was kind of what was the first symptom.
Is the cancer gone?
He has just finished chemo for it, and so it's still there, but like not really doing anything.
Okay. Honestly, the way that I would start it is I would give him, I would start off gentle. You could do it in essential oil, or you could actually even just go to the health food store and get black cumin, or they'll call it black seed, right? Black seed. And I would start off with just like a couple of capsules a day and then work your way up, probably up to about 6 capsules a day. The thing with that is it will help with the lymphatic issue. It will help reduce inflammation, and it breaks up scar tissue internally. When he's done that for a little while, I would have him just in really tiny dosages, you know, starting to inhale some helichrysum to start breaking up that scar tissue in the lungs. But I'd probably try breaking it up first with the black seed, and then eventually get him to it just lightly, like, you know, put like 1 drop of helichrysum and some vegetable oil, and then rub your hands together and have him, or, you know, have him do it and see if he can handle that. But I would even give him the black seed for a little while. The reason why I was asking about the smoker's cough is one of the things that, like, if he's had the chronic cough, it's probably more for the cancer. So I don't know that I even need to answer this, but I'll just throw it in there. I don't know that he needs to do this, but if there was a smoker's cough that had lingered for a period of time, there is an herb. There's no oil for it, but there's an herb called paw de arco, and that's really good for knocking out the smoker's cough. And so his cough was from the cancer. And so Paul de Arco doesn't really address that. So will you keep me posted on that? Because I probably would like to help you. Like, we might have to troubleshoot that a bit. So
Okay.
let's start with the black seed, and then we'll do like little tiny amounts. We might even do a thing where we mix the bay laurel and the helichrysum together. Sometimes I add a little bit of petitgrain to that, and then just real light inhalations for a little tiny bit, and just little by little just start breaking up the scar tissue. Because anytime you're dealing with scar tissue, what you're really saying in other language is a fascial lesion. And a fascial lesion is basically like a knot like you would get in your muscle, but in the connective tissue, like in the fascia. And so helichrysum is really good for treating that. So we just got to be able to get the helichrysum into his lungs. You know, in the Muslim tradition, in the Quran, they say black seed will cure everything but death. And so it's so anti-inflammatory, it's so good for the body, it's good for breaking up internal scar tissue that, you know, people who have, like there was this person one time, he broke his foot and he kept walking on it for a while before he saw the doctor. And by the time he saw the doctor, you know, the doctor put it in a cast and everything, but it was really swollen. And even after he left, it just kept swelling and discoloring. And, you know, it was getting darker red. I mean, it was not looking good. And so when I saw him, I mean, the leg looked pretty bad. So I started giving him big dosages of black cumin, you know, black seed. And then I gave him some galbanum to take internally just to manage the pain. And I mean, it was, I'm not joking, like within 6 hours, the leg already looked substantially better. I mean, it was like night, it was like somebody flipped a switch. And he said, you know, it was tail spinning, and within a few hours, it started spinning the other direction and like started getting better. He said that was the first time it started like it was getting better. And so a lot of times you're dealing with scar tissue and or inflammation, and the black cumin addresses both. So it doesn't matter which one it is, you just start addressing it.
Okay. And then you said, you know, to do that for a while. How long is
Like
a while?
maybe
Like 2 weeks?
maybe
2 months?
yeah, 2 to 3 weeks. Yeah, 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay.
Then
Perfect.
email us at Plant Prana Calendar and at Gmail, and I'll help you troubleshoot it after that.
Okay. Thank you so much, Greg.
You're so welcome.
Any suggestions for gum disease?
Gum disease, like what kind of gum disease? Like infection or receding gum line?
Oh, you know what? They're having trouble connecting this way. I'll have you, well, it's Brandy. She's having a hard time hearing things that she said earlier. So maybe we'll just send that to her later, I guess. Yeah. Which oil to combine and spray for cord cutting from Chakra?
I would just, for cord cutting, I would just use Roux by itself. I wouldn't even combine it with anything. I would just Roux by itself. And honestly, you don't even have to spray it. You can just inhale it. But if you want to make a spray, put Roux in, and it should disintegrate the cords.
How about food grade hydrogen peroxide and essential oils like clove oil in a mouthwash? Will peroxide oxidize the oil?
You know, I was about to start playing with that. I haven't really played with peroxide and the oils together. I mean, in theory, it should work, but I haven't played with it enough to know. So it would be purely a guess on my part. So I would say I don't have enough information on that one, to be honest with you. I can keep you posted on that because I am going to start playing with that.
Are there any oils that decrease sensitivity to poison ivy, either before or after the exposure?
Poison ivy, not oils that I'm aware of. There is a herb. I want to say the slang for it was fit root. I'd have to look up to see what the common name is. But fit root is supposed to be just anti-poison ivy, poison oak.
I'm wide awake right now, but during the protocols, I kept falling asleep. Could it be that I was resisting the protocol?
It wasn't that you're resisting the protocol, it's that you are being re-educated, your system, and a lot of times when you're having deep shifts, it will kind of make you groggy and pass out. So you weren't resisting it. If you're resisting it, you would have felt no relaxation at all. That you were relaxed is a good sign. So that you're wide awake now is just, you know, you're bouncing back out of it. But yeah, that's fine.
Anything for mitral valve prolapse?
Essential oil wise, not that I'm aware of. Again, multifaceted approach, and I'd have to go through and look at my notes. You know, you can send the thing to me at the Plant Prana Q&A or to the email, and I can look up my notes, but off the top of my head, I can't remember the complexity of it. A lot of times, I mean, I'm like you guys, I have to go to the recipe. Even the books that I've written and I've given to you guys, I use those like reference books just like you guys. I mean, I'm not joking. Like, look, I have like 4 or 5 of them with me right now. It's like, it's too much information to memorize. So you know, it's just like a cookbook. You just flip open to it, and so my notes function that way as well. Like I know that I probably have some notes on that. Well, I know that I do, but I'd have to go back through and look at my notes.
How many breaths for all of the oils?
So it depends on how intensely you're wanting to do the protocol, but at the top it usually says 3 to 15 breaths. If you get to where you're really working on protocol and you want to do it deeper, you can go longer, but 3 to 15 per step. You know, like if it's like, put your one nose between your eyebrows, do 3 to 15 breaths, then your throat, 3 to 15 breaths, then your heart, 3 to 15 breaths. So depends on how intense or how much time you have.
A friend is dealing with uranium, plutonium poisoning, mostly respiratory and fatigue, trying to survive. Any suggestions?
Oh. I mean, how sick are they?
Peggy,
That sounds really serious.
do you need me to unmute you?
Yeah, it's serious. She sounds terrible. She's still functioning, but she just sounds really weak.
But I'm just curious, how did that happen?
She's very connected with what's going on in the world, and apparently this is something almost like another warfare kind of a thing.
Like, what are the symptoms? What are the symptoms?
Well, first of all, she had probably COVID or something, and she had 11-week cough, 11 weeks of a cough that almost killed her, but she survived it. And so her body's weakened anyway. And this, it sounds like a cough and extreme fatigue. And she's a chronic healer, and she's got people healing and using every kind of remedy that we all know. I just didn't know if there were any oils, it sounded like.
Has she been evaluated by a doctor?
I don't think so. She is a doctor, but she's a functional
doctor.
Yeah.
Functional medicine. Let me think about that. I don't have an easy answer for that.
Los Alamos.
Let me think about it and email me, and I'll plan for that calendar, and I'll give you some suggestions.
Okay, thanks.
Los Alamos and Livermore Labs are using pure bicarbonate of soda to clear radioactive contaminants. They can clear 92% of uranium out of a contaminated field. And so you can probably drink very small amounts because you don't want to unbalance yourself. But if you put a cup in a bath, it can pull it out, help pull it out through the skin and wash it off you. Or if you put some in your laundry, it'll wash it out of clothes. They're using it. They've used it in Japan for the radiation problem. They used some homeopathics for it for the Chernobyl, and it was, let's see.
Okay.
Yeah, Sonia, would you email that information to me there at plantpronicalendar@gmail.com? Just go ahead and email me that info so we can get it in our system.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
Which plants are known as plant teachers?
Things like clary sage, plant teachers, clary sage, mugwort. Well, I mean, even just sage itself. Aloes wood, tuberose, lotus, ginger lily. Give me a second here. Kapoor Kacheri, Swazi, Baronia, Acacia, Narcissus, Angelica, Cistus.
Best oils for acid reflux?
A lot of times with acid reflux, a lot of times I use apple cider vinegar, believe it or not. You know, I have them to get a gel cap or a shot. And so pretty consistently get rid of it that way. Like, which one would you use? The ginger one? Or
The ginger one.
Yeah. Like one of the things that we made with Apothecary Geek is we made apple cider vinegar with ginger extract and ginger essential oil. And so that's one of the things that Samantha's expertise is in, is making vinegar-based things. And so we kind of combined a real high, I ran down some really over-the-top grade ginger. And then she did a long extraction with ginger. And it's really super good for the digestive system, digestive tract. And, you know, that combination, you know, like taking a shot during the day, usually will wipe it out.
What was the plant's name for smoker's cough?
Pau d'Arco, like P-A-U, and then D with a little thing, and then A-R-C-O.
Is there an oil to treat, sorry, I'm gonna slaughter this potentially, squamous cell carcinoma and basil?
The only things that I've used where I've seen it get some results has been putting orange oil on a Q-tip and then putting it on there. But I would say still see your physician and make sure that that is getting wiped out, because that is a potential really serious issue. And so, but I have had orange oil used on that. And when they go back to the doctor cuts out the area, and then they do the biopsy afterwards, and there's nothing left. And so it doesn't always work, but it has kind of worked. Yeah.
Oils for halitosis?
That's usually a little bit more of a digestive, like lower digestive issue. I mean, if there's a little bit of just infection in the mouth, you know, sometimes the clove can clean it up, or tea tree. But I would also do things to clean the gut up a little bit. You can even try a little bit of cinnamon in water and drink it, or a little bit of palmarosa. Palmarosa would probably be a little bit of a better long-term choice. It changes the friendly bacteria. It increases the friendly bacteria. The cinnamon knocks out the bad bacteria.
Does it mean anything when you crave an oil? Like, you can't get enough of it.
It means you really like that oil. I don't know. It's like sometimes you're bonding with the oil, or maybe it's doing something good for you. Yeah, but I think we all have our moments with different oils. Yeah. My very first one was vetiver. I'd been exposed to a lot of oils, but boy, my first thing where I just lost it was, man, vetiver. And so, you know, different ones I get that way about, but you know, it depends. But if there's just one oil that you really like and you really are just rocking it, I'd just lean into it and enjoy it.
My mother-in-law has cancer of the blood. Several rounds of chemo has not helped. Hospice care and
When we say
6
cancer of the
months.
blood, we're talking about leukemia, or
Um,
she just has
Heather, do you
cancer?
mind
I
answering?
You know, I don't think it's like a leukemia. I
It's
don't
like
really.
leukemia. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any oils as a last-ditch effort.
How far along is she?
6 months to live is her diagnosis. Is her prognosis, sorry.
Yeah, she's to the point where she has no energy and can't even get up.
Honestly, a lot of times with like that, instead of oils, I give them really kind of substantial dosages of mushrooms. If you email me, I'll go through and look at my notes. But there's different mushrooms do different things for different kinds of cancers. Tell me the exact kind of cancer.
Yes.
And I'll go through and I'll look it up. I'll get back to that. Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
And then you can just go online, and honestly, with the mushrooms, I don't even buy them in capsules. Just buy the powder. It's way cheaper. And then just, put a teaspoon in water and just have her drink it. Like, because you're going to do big dosages. And so I suspect there's one that it's probably going to be, but I want to check my notes and make sure that it's the one.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that, by the way.
That's okay. Thanks.
Nika, you're asking us to retype the plants. Because we're so over the 6 o'clock end of class time, I'm sending everyone a recording. So if you're good with it, you'll probably be able to really fast, find it in the recording. I'll send that to you guys tomorrow. Unless somebody else took the notes and wants to retype it, I'm going to try to get through your guys' questions so they get answered tonight. Any suggestions for rheumatoid arthritis?
Well, anytime you have rheumatoid arthritis, you have several things. You want to improve the quality of sleep. So inhaling ginger to help with the anabolic state when you're sleeping is always good. Then you rock and thyme taken internally to reboot the immune system and the thymus, so that rheumatoid arthritis is an autoimmune disorder. So you're wanting to undo that component. Then a combination of rosemary, like juniper, cedar, pine, mixed together and then made into like a liniment or an ointment and rubbed on the hands or the hands and feet, or if it's in the spine, you can rub it on the spine, will greatly reduce the symptoms, increase mobility, and slow down the degeneration of the joints. And so that combination has been working for hundreds of years. And so I usually follow that recipe that they've been using since the 1700s, I think, to treat rheumatoid arthritis topically. And it works quite well. Yeah, rosemary, I think I do rosemary, cedar, juniper, pine, and I throw a couple other things in there, but even that combination by itself will do it.
What are the benefits of Buddha Mind oil?
Buddha Mind is for doing like higher intuitive work and accessing the unconscious. Good for meditation, good for intuition, things like that.
And Brandy, for the poison ivy, I'm gonna say the same thing to you as I said to Nika, because we're so over on time. I am sending everyone today's recording tomorrow. So it'll be, within the last 30 minutes or so of Greg's talk. So I wanted to let y'all know that.
Okay, you guys, thank you so much for spending your Saturday with me. I hope you enjoyed it. I know it's usually different than what you thought. I hope it was okay, and do that first part that we did this morning. Do that pretty consistently, and we'll be sending out a PDF here sometime soon. And so hopefully I'll see some of you guys Tuesday night at the Review for Prosperity, and the Angel Class 1 and 2 next weekend. So thank you for everything, and super good seeing the back of this iPad and seeing you through the back of the iPad. It's weird not seeing you guys in person, but okay.
And I am typing if you want to order any orders, or if you want the most up-to-date plant prana oils list, go to email us at plantpranaorders@gmail.com. I just posted it in the box. And if you can't remember that, just remember Plant Prana Calendar. And that is a good place to ask other questions, and I can forward whatever we need to from there. So it's plantpranacalendar@gmail.com. Also, if you have questions on any upcoming classes. And thank you all.
Samantha, can you just say that today is really the last couple of days to register for the 6th and 7th, Angels 1 and 2, where they get Angels 3 and 4 for free?
Yes.
Because we have to get kits out.
Yeah, so we try to get everybody their kit, and especially because of just,
Thank you, Lala, for reminding me.
yeah, the extra time it takes to get these shipments out. We want to get everybody's signed up who's taking Angels 1 and 2 by tonight, really, because we're sending out the kits to, by tomorrow, Sunday. Yeah,
by tomorrow night.
By tomorrow night, because we're sending out the kits on Monday. So if you've taken Angels 1 and 2, Greg is offering Angels 3 and 4 for free, but you do have to have taken Angels 1 and 2 first. Now, if you're wondering if you took Angels 1 and 2, email me at Plant Prana Calendars. We sent out an email to everybody to let them know what the classes of Angels 1 was and what Angels 2 was. If you did not get that, go ahead and just email me at plantpranacalendar@gmail.com if you're not sure if you took those. If you do know you want to take Angels 1 and or 2, Lala is your organizer for that. It's plantpranalala@gmail.com. I'm putting that in the box for you as well. These classes are amazing. I'm just putting a little plug here because they're like nothing else, like ever. So if you have any interest in angels or connecting with angels on a really, really amazing level, these classes are phenomenal.
So on that note, the Angel 3 class and Angel 4 class is going to be free. Angel 3 will be taught
June 12th and 13th in the evenings.
Yeah, June 12th and 13th in the evenings, and then again will be taught June 27th from 9 to 6.
Yeah.
And then Angel 4 will be taught June 27th from 9 to 6. So they're coming up in June.
We will be getting that all updated on the events and the calendar, and also stand by within the next 2 weeks. Our website is going to be up with the calendar and events and descriptions of the classes as well. Best place to find out about all of this is if you email me at plantpranacalendar@gmail.com. Give me your email, because we send out a weekly newsletter via MailChimp. So just so you know, if you're not getting the emails, it may be going to your spam, but we keep everybody updated on what's going on with Plant Prana for you guys. All right, don't want to over talk now. You guys have a wonderful, wonderful night.
Thanks for
Thank you,
spending
thank
the day
you.
with me, you guys. Hope everybody
Thank you very
has a
much.
good day.
Thank you.
Wonderful day. Thank you both.
Thank you both.
Thanks, Sam, for organizing.
Thank you.
It was great.
Thanks again.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
See you soon.
Thanks.